Hello, today I'm going to take you on a bookshelf tour of all of my classics. So this is bound to be a longer video, so get cozy, get a cup of tea. You know, this is a great one to have on in the background, I think, but you just enjoy, you just get cozy. It's gonna be good. So welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens. I'm a teacher and author, and this is English Nerd. So when I say classics, just one disclaimer before we start diving into all these shelves you see behind me. I mean sort of the generally accepted canon of classics. I know that kind of varies from person to person, but I'm just going to point out the ones that seem to fit the mold based on classes I've taken, classes I've taught, things I've heard. So if you're wondering where a certain book is, chances are I just don't have it. If you are wondering why I included something, then feel free to ask, but I'm just gonna do my best over here. So let's take a look. We'll start with the big bookcase that you always see behind me on my videos. There are the Lord of the Rings banners, of course. So yeah, let's see. So we have some Lord of the Rings versions here. So this one is humongous. It is in the running for the longest books that I own, and it is illustrated, as you can see, by Alan Lee, who is one of the generally considered to be one of the best, certainly the most famous Tolkien illustrators. So look at just how beautiful that special edition is. I also have special editions of a special edition of The Hobbit as well, right here. So I prefer Lord of the Rings, as anybody who's been around the channel probably knows. However, this Hobbit is undeniably beautiful as well. You have some green spackling on the edges there. Yeah, so that's that. And then finally, but this copy is, I think, the most beautiful one that I own, and I like it especially because there's a passage in it where Sam asks Frodo, do you think we'll be remembered in songs or tales, read out of a big book with red and black letters. And I was very pleased to find, when I first got this in high school, by the way, it comes with a map, that this book has red and black letters. Look at that. So it's very, very special. It's not one that I really take out to read, just because it's so big, but there you go. Fantasy classics. We'll put these back the way they were. I really like them that way. I'm kind of particular about my bookshelves, even though it looks like it's organized chaos. That's exactly it. It's organized chaos. Here. All right, next on the classics tour, the collected poems of G.K. Chesterton. I like a lot of his poetry. My favorite is in a separate book, however. This is my old bookshelf, as you can see. All right, this is a copy of Oscar Wilde's complete works. I have two of the three. One of the others is, I think, there are like just a handful of books that are still like at my parents' house from long, long ago, and they use it for decoration. I really need to bring it over here, but there's just not a lot of space. As you can see, everything's just packed on top of itself. So this is Lady Windermere's Fan and A Woman of No Importance. And if you know Oscar Wilde, he wrote in the 1890s, and this is from 1900, I want to say. Let me just double check. It has one of those papers. 1909. So just a few years after Oscar Wilde was writing some of these things. Ooh, this next one is very special. So John Keats' poetical works. It has gold edging. You can kind of see it there. Not only is this a really beautiful book of my favorite poets poetry from 1895. But this also was a gift from my late friend. You're going to find that that is the case with a couple of these books, and those are particularly, sentimental for me for obvious reasons. Next, here's one that I have not read. Full disclosure, I'm always going to try to be honest on this channel. Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. I have not read, but this one is from, when is this one from? From 1889, it looks like. So we're going back in time, my friends. We're going back in time. This was from J. Winfield Scott's library. We have some actual writing there, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's nice. It's not in the best condition, but it's hanging in there. It's doing all right. Okay, next. These are packed so closely in, I can only take out one at a time like this. Next is Emerson's essays. I always liked Emerson's turns of phrase. I feel like sometimes, as far as being able to follow what he's saying, it's not always the easiest, nor do I always agree with him, but I really enjoyed reading Emerson when I was in high school, so I got a couple of Emerson books. This one is from 1894, Arlington edition, and it's just really pretty. You have this, again, sort of gold accenting, and you can see the pages have those big margins that sometimes the older books do because of the different method of printing them. So we've got this, The Old Curiosity Shop. I really like a lot of Dickens' works. I don't like all of them. To be honest, I feel like he's somebody who wrote a lot, in general, and his best is tough to beat, and he has other stuff as well, and that all kind of gets lumped together into the classics category. Old Curiosity Shop is actually not one that I have read, but I found this copy of it this one's from the School Board for London in 1899. See? I tried to fix the spine of this one myself without having any bookbinder knowledge, so that's kind of why there's this stain along the center, because I used the wrong type of glue. This person on the spine looks a little ghoulish to me, but what do you do, I guess. So Old Curiosity Shop by Dickens. Next one is the works of Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer. There are some bits of Chaucer that I really like. He's not one of my favorites, to be perfectly honest. But this is kind of cool because it's not only old, but it's also in Middle English. This was a gift from a student of mine, actually. And this one is from 1894, so it definitely belongs in my old book collection. It also has some of that gold edging to it that so many older books had, just on the top and not on the other side, so that makes me think it probably was well used in its time. You have a few little markings like that check there. Okay, next up, this is getting kind of complicated to do. The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. The only Victor Hugo work that I have read is Les Miserables. I have not read Hunchback, but this one is another J. Winfield Scott book. I forgot I had multiple from that person's library. So this one, I don't actually take this one out all that much, just because, again, I haven't read it, so I haven't really featured it in any of my other English nerd videos, for example. I'm not sure when this one is from. There's no date on it. It has an 1880s kind of feel like a lot of the others do, but I don't see any confirmation of a date. I'd have to go digging a bit more. But yeah, so there you go. Next up is a book that I featured in Laertes' Hamlet retelling, which is this book right up here. This is not only very pretty, once again, the gold accents. This one has a lot more gold accenting, which I like. But this is Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry, and this book I have not read all of it. I've read some of Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry, and again, I included it in this book, which makes it kind of special just because I'm so attached to Laertes. Not only is it pretty, and not only is it in Laertes, not only is it from 1882 or thereabout, but it's from Elizabeth Barrett Browning's biggest fan. Like, this book was personalized in the extreme. Not only do we have this, look at the illustrations, so cool. But we have, this is pasted in, this is a picture of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. This is pasted in a signature from her. I mean, it must be a printed signature. It must be, or else I would lose my ever-loving mind. But yeah, if you look in the back, there are newspaper clippings about them in papers from the time. There are notes that are handwritten. There's this about the tombs of them. Look at that. You can kind of open it. The Browning Memorial. This is just an irreplaceable gem, really, it seems to me. So there you go. It is just lovely. All right, next we have The Merry Wives of Windsor. There's going to be a lot of Shakespeare on this lengthy tour, so just buckle up. This one is, like, I think it's faux leather. It could be real leather, but it is The Merry Wives of Windsor from 1894. It's red and black lettering. It's just a really cool little edition. It's old enough that it has one of these, and it just feels nice. I'm happy I have this one. Okay, some Sherlock Holmes. Look at that. Look at that. It's all, yeah, I guess it's engraved. It's not embossed. Embossed would be sticking up, but this pattern goes down. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, which is my favorite of the short stories that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote. This one is from the 1920s and is just a really nice edition. The paper quality is not quite as good as some of the others, but that could just be for a lot of different reasons, I guess. On to the oldest book that I own. It is this one. This is Robert Burns' poetry. It is absolutely breathtaking. It's green with gold edging, gold accents just stamped everywhere into this. The edges have mostly faded now, but you can see it used to be this kind of marbling pattern. And it is from 1813. It has some writing from the different people who have bought it and gifted it. It has a couple of illustrations based on whether the poems are the more English style or the more Scottish style of Robert Burns. So to give you context for 1813, Charles Dickens was born in 1812, and this book came out a year after he was born. So just a really cool addition to my collection. It's one of my favorites. I mean, look at just the tops of those covers. It's just so cool, so cool. This is an edition of Robin Hood. Has very, very faded gold. It looks good in this light, but most of the time it's sort of dull looking like this. There's like the state capitol or something on the back and on the front, and I don't understand why. Or the nation capitol. There's some kind of capitol building. Look at that. Isn't that weird? Anyhow, it's Robin Hood from, this one's early 1800s as well. It's 1855. 1855, very messily colored plates as advertised. This one's in pretty bad shape. You can see there's a lot of like spotting and stuff on it. But yeah, it's the story of Robin Hood, so it just narrowly makes it into the classics category. This is another one that I barely ever take out because it's in funky condition. It would be a little bit difficult to read without damaging. But 1855, I mean, that's pretty cool. St. Mark's Rest by Ruskin, John Ruskin. He's not as well known as some other authors, but he makes it into, you know, the best of English literature kind of anthologies and stuff like that. I have not read St. Mark's Rest, but I've read other essays and kind of partial pieces by Ruskin, which is why I gravitated toward this book. Also, it's just really cute. Look at that, with the flowers. And this one is 1909. A lot of these have the names hand tipped in there. So St. Mark's Rest, it is basically it's like a tourist guide to Venice, but the way that Ruskin writes, he's basically an art critic, but he looks at art in like from all of these different societal and aesthetic and even moral perspectives. I mean, it's just a very unique way of looking at art, and the way he articulates not only the art itself and what it looks like for people who can't see it, because there aren't any illustrations in here, I don't believe, is just stunning. I mean, it's breathtaking. His prose is second to none, so that one narrowly makes it in. Got another little Ruskin. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot about my other little Ruskin because I have St. Mark's Rest that is so pretty. So this one's 1898. I shouldn't be surprising myself by this. That's kind of a bit sad, isn't it? All right, so this one has some St. Mark's in it. This one has he did an essay about the painting called The Slave Ship, and that one it's a really moving, beautiful essay, so that's in there. There you go, little masterpieces. We have Jack and Jill by Louisa May Alcott. I'm not sure if this falls under, she's the Little Women author. I don't have any old copies of Little Women, but I do have Jack and Jill, which I have not read, and I don't know if it really counts as a classic, but since I counted St. Mark's Rest, you know, then this is Louisa May Alcott, and it's another lovely book. I'm not sure if you can really see that. Jack and Jill, this one is from 1903, and again, those illustrations with the little paper covering it. So yeah, not one that I've read, and it's been quite a long time since I've read Little Women too. Lots and lots of years, so maybe it's time to revisit at some point. Okay, I have a librarian friend, and the library was getting rid of this illustrated complete works of Shakespeare, so she asked if I wanted it, and the answer was yes. It's humongous, and I already have the complete works of Shakespeare in a couple different forms, but it was so pretty that I thought, well, why not? Why not take another complete works of Shakespeare? It looks old as well. I don't know exactly when this is from, and the date does not appear to be in the very front either, but yeah, who knows? Not me right now. Yeah, it doesn't say. I'd have to do some digging online, but I have not. So this is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. It's a pretty copy, however, look how skinny that is. That has to be abridged. Anna Karenina is a large book typically. So let's just do that. And the way that Karenina is spelled from the transliteration is a little funky as well. So I don't know if they admit that it's abridged, but it has to be. This has to be abridged. It has that printing style where you can almost feel the way it was pressed into the pages. Yeah, this is only 230 pages, something like that. So yeah, that's not the full text of Anna Karenina, but it was pretty. Okay, we have the works of Rudyard Kipling here. So again, we get the gold, and This one is a bit brighter. This one is not quite as old as the others. It's just part of a very nice collection that seems like it would belong on Gatsby's shelves. You know how if you've read Gatsby, you know that he has this whole big library worth of books, but he doesn't actually read them. Like they're not cut yet, the kind of sealing on them, and this book seems like it would kind of fit right in with that. I have not only the Kipling version here, but also the Tolstoy one, so Leo Tolstoy as well. Look at that, they go together. A couple other books that go together are these Dickens illustrated works. They look the same on the front. However, one of them is Tale of Two Cities and Sketches by Boz, which was really his first foray into writing. He wrote under the pen name Boz, and that is pretty rare to find, any Sketches by Boz. So I love that it's Tale of Two Cities, which is my favorite, and Sketches by Boz. And then this one is Christmas Stories, because he wrote more than just A Christmas Carol. He did a whole bunch of Christmas ghost stories. It's like this subgenre that he was just really, really into. And reprinted pieces. I'm not even sure what reprinted pieces are in here, but it's different letters, different observations. I mean, Dickens wrote so much. It was pretty crazy. So yeah, these are from what are these from? 1880s, 1890s, I want to say, but I don't see a date on them. This is a trend, evidently. Yeah, that's not a date. Oh, look at that, it's my boy. This I have read, and I really enjoyed, actually. Normally I don't just sit down and read poetry, but this is a first edition Ballad of the White Horse by Chesterton. Has uneven edges. I don't know if you can see that, which I used to like, and now I don't, because now I can't grab them as easily. But yeah, the Ballad of the White Horse, it was fun. It was about King Alfred defending England against the invading Danes. I think it's an Anglo-Saxon kind of story. So yeah, it's fun. Oh, I also have Tales from Shakespeare by Lamb, but they're like retold Tales of Shakespeare. I guess if I'm going to include Robin Hood, then I have to include Tales from Shakespeare. So it comes from the novels and sketches of J.M. Barrie, who is the one who wrote Peter Pan. I love Peter Pan. I think it's a blast. And so I found this a long time ago. I think it must have been when I was in college, and because I only read Peter Pan for the first time when I was in college and picked it up. So it's another one of those uneven edge books. And it's from 1912. It has that print style with the really thick pages, and it's printed directly on there. So that sort of counts, right? All right, we're going down to the next shelf. This is obviously my Lord of the Rings shelf. Maybe it's not obvious, but it should be because of all the Lord of the Rings stuff. So I'm not going to pull each one of these out just like I did with the others, because they're a bit more common. But what we have here, I have the letters of Tolkien, all the letters that he wrote, or a bunch of selected letters, at least. This is the Unfinished Tales, Children of Hurin. This is well, I guess the War of the Ring doesn't really count, as it counts if the letters count, as a Tolkien classic. It's more like the research and stuff that he did. The Silmarillion counts. Lord of the Rings, this is my favorite copy of Lord of the Rings, even though it's not as fancy looking, because it's the very first one that I read when I was 14, and it just changed my life. Obviously, look, there's the white tree of Gondor over there. So we have various other works that he did. There's the Tolkien Reader, Tales from the Perilous Realm, that's like Leaf by Niggle, and some of these other works that he wrote that are just not as known. And then, if you look at this, these are more, oh, Book of Lost Tales, The Hobbit. Okay. Here we have copies of Lord of the Rings that I got for one of two reasons. The top one is illegal. Let me explain. In case you haven't seen my other Lord of the Rings videos, there was an illegal version of Lord of the Rings that was published through Ace Books. There was an illegal version of the Lord of the Rings that was published through Ace Books only in America, and Tolkien didn't get a cent. So these are kind of hard to find. So when I was at the used bookstore and found, I knew this cover, the illegal, unauthorized version of Lord of the Rings, I had to get it. So secondhand, you know, I got it secondhand, so I'm not hurting the Tolkien estate. Well, I'm definitely not hurting the Tolkien estate. I'm getting all these things. I mean, look, there's Minas Tirith. So then, also these are just the most hideous covers imaginable. I guess I have to show them to you now. I finally found all three of these. Ready? There's the Fellowship. The Two Towers, my personal favorite. And Return of the King. Wow, wow, wow. What can you say about those? Besides just, we're lucky to be alive. We're lucky to be alive, everyone. And then these, I only have the Return of the King and Fellowship of the Ring. I don't have Two Towers in this collection, but the absolute just drug-addled bonkersness of those. It blows my mind. I don't know why there are so many weird lizards. These things don't really pertain to the story, but I love it. What are the emus doing there? Why are there emus there? I love it so much. Okay, and then to finish off this shelf of fantasy classics, I have the Chronicles of Narnia, of course. I feel like that's kind of a given if you have this whole shelf of Tolkien stuff. Although, interestingly, Tolkien himself was not a big fan of the Chronicles of Narnia. He thought they were too chaotic. It's like, well, what's Father Christmas doing there? And he had a very good point. But they're still very beloved. So I really like these versions. I think they're pretty. Yes, they are from the movies, but I mean, just like look at the covers on these things. They're really, really pretty. We've got The Last Battle. We've got The Silver Chair. The light's not hitting it right, but there's a lot of embossing. So there's the Don Treader, Caspian, Horse and His Boy, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Magician's Nephew. I mean, it's just banger after banger, those covers, in my opinion. So I was very happy to get that version. I've had them a long time, since around when the first movie came out. I don't know when that was. Somebody will know. Oh, it says cover art 2002, so it can't be that long ago, but maybe I was still in high school. Who's to say? See my TBR cart over there. I have a lot more books on here than just classics, but being an English major and English teacher, you really do accumulate a lot of English literature and literature of other kinds. So here we go, some more. We have the illustrated Rime of the Ancient Mariner. One of these days I'm going to do a video all about the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, the entire thing, but it's going to take a while, which is why I haven't dived into that quite yet. But this is a really pretty illustrated edition. This one I inherited from that friend who passed away that I mentioned. I like to remember her every June, because that was her birthday. King Arthur and his Knights. So King Arthur stuff just makes it in here, I guess. more of those uneven pages that again I used to like, but now they bug me. But this is really pretty. Look at that. It's illustrated throughout. It's one of those just display copies of a book. So yeah, surprising, happy find there. We have King Arthur and Robin Hood. This Robin Hood is not much to look at on the outside, but it does have those pages again, and some really nice illustrations too. So this one you can tell it's a little older, like a lot of these books. Okay, next I have Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Other Tales. So this is like a complete works of Lewis Carroll. I did an entire video just looking at this beautiful special edition. If you want to check that out, then feel free. It is stunning, like absolutely stunning. So if you are a fan of Lewis Carroll, then I would run out and get this edition, because there really is like none that compares in my opinion. Here's Kazuo Ishiguro, the Buried Giant. He's the guy who wrote Never Let Me Go, which I have not read, The Remains of the Day, which I have read. So I'll show it to you. It's at least classic adjacent. This was a gift from a friend. I have not yet read this one, but it's one of my only sprayed edge books. It has cool black edges, has a gorgeous cover, and I have to be in the mood for Kazuo Ishiguro, his style, but he is really good once you just kind of relax into the descriptions and things like that. All right, I have the Essential C.S. Lewis. That's just a lot of C.S. Lewis stuff. I have more Chesterton. I have Maus, which is a newer, if it's not a classic yet, I know it's being taught. It's at least on its way. So it's Maus by Art Spiegelman. It's the story of, so it's Art Spiegelman in a semi-biographical comic, talking about his father's experience in the Holocaust, and it's very disturbing, very moving, very, very well done. It looks cartoony, but it's and it technically is a cartoon, but it feels like anything but. East of Eden is another one of those funky edges. I'm over it. I'm over the funky edges. By John Steinbeck. So I had a lot of students actually recommend this book to me. The only Steinbeck that I have read cover to cover is Of Mice and Men, I think. Maybe some shorter stuff. I haven't read Grapes of Wrath, but I heard that East of Eden, at least is from people whose opinions I respect, they liked East of Eden more than Grapes of Wrath. So I just got this probably my first year teaching, and it's been sitting on my shelf ever since. All right, T.S. Eliot Selected Essays. I really like some of Eliot's stuff, and I took a class on Eliot in college, which is why I have this. It's, well, annotated. And I hung on to it. All right, here's Little Women, which again I haven't read in a very long time. This is the version I read long ago when I was probably in middle school, and I enjoyed it then, but have not re-dived into that. Okay, I also have, this is not actually Peter Pan, it's just a passport, because I am an English nerd after all. I have Thoreau's Walden, or Life in the Woods. This, when I was in high school, they gave us the books. So these are my high school notes in here, which is pretty cool, I think. I really enjoy having those, and I've used them to teach some similar works. The only high school English class that I did not teach is junior year, which is American Lit, which is where this would have come in. Right, A Severe Mercy, Christian classic. It's incredibly sad. You know, read only if you really want to cry. Evelyn Waugh's Brideshead Revisited. This is my college copy. I feel like I should revisit this book. It's a kind of dark academia-esque classic, and I don't know, I liked it, but I think I would get more out of it now. More Charles Dickens. This is not his famous stuff. It's Master Humphrey's Clock and a Child's History of England. But that's why I got it, because I'm like, what in the heck are these things? I still don't know because I haven't read them. I don't know if you would count Chesterton's Father Brown mysteries, but they're kind of mystery classics. I've read maybe half of those. Hiding Place, autobiographical Christian classic. All right, ready for some poetry and ancient stuff? Okay, so I have John Donne selected poems because Donne is one of my favorites. He writes really moving religious poetry that isn't that like sappy nonsense that gets forwarded in emails, and he also writes really sexy poetry. He has these two different sides, and I'm here for it. Complete works of John Keats. This is a more write-in-able book than the old version that I had before. I actually got them both, I think, in the same Christmas. I want to say my parents got this one for me, and then my friend got the old copy, which is kind of funny. I don't remember asking for John Keats poems, but I guess they knew that I enjoyed that. 100 Best Loved Poems. This was one that I got in high school, and so it has some of my high school notes, and I've been using it for the analysis series as well. Gerard Manley Hopkins selected poems. I really like these Dover Thrift editions because they're so cheap, and some of Gerard Manley Hopkins' poetry is just incredible. Yeah, if you haven't watched the Carrion Comfort video that I have, then I would encourage you to do that. It's a really incredible poem, one of my all-time favorites. Canterbury Tales. This was a college book that I held on to. It is in Middle English, and it's some of the Canterbury Tales. Norton Critical Edition. I really do enjoy Norton Critical Editions because they have not only the text, but also like essays and source material and stuff like that in the back, which is cool if you want to do some further research, which sometimes I do. Beowulf. This was my college copy for my Anglo-Saxon class. It has Anglo-Saxon on one side and Modern English on the other side. I thought this poem was a blast. If you haven't read Beowulf and you want to read some classics, this one it has monster fights, so you can kind of look deeper, or you can just go surfacey and still have a good time with that one. Let's see, I have C.S. Lewis poetry. He's not known for his poems though. Let's see, Robert Frost. I'm not even sure why I have this one, because I like Robert Frost, but he's not one of my favorites. I know. But yeah, I have that. Maybe I should read more of his poems and then do some analysis. That could be interesting. I have some Petrarch. Let's go highbrow here. Selections from the Canzoniere and other works. This was from college as well. Otherwise, I would not have read Petrarchan sonnets, probably, but here we are. They ended up being very nice. All right, Oedipus Rex. This is my high school copy. I haven't pulled this out in quite a long time, actually. I did not like it in high school, and I think it's a hoot now. It is such a messed up play, Oedipus by Sophocles, and it's just so well done. The timing and the foreshadowing is just like a comedy, but it's like the outcome is not funny. It's just horrible. I shouldn't be laughing. Okay, I have some Greek tragedies. This was a college textbook. It has Agamemnon and Prometheus Bound by Aeschylus. It has Oedipus and Antigone by Sophocles and Hippolytus by Euripides. So I've read half of those, and not the other half. I have the Iliad, of course. Ta-da! This one I actually never studied in its entirety, I don't think. So I bought it in college or right after college and just read it on my own. The Aeneid. This was my college copy, but we only ended up reading like 4 books of it, so I haven't read the whole thing. Odyssey, I have read the whole Odyssey like twice. This is the Robert Fagles edition with those funky pages. I think this was my college copy of that. Oh, and then at the bottom here I have the complete works of the Pearl Poet. So the Pearl Poet wrote Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, most famously, as well as the Pearl. So sometimes he's called the Pearl Poet, sometimes he's called the Gawain Poet, but it's an anonymous person who wrote both of them, and they're both a blast. Kind of like John Donne has these very different styles that he can do and kind of attitudes he can take. So too the Pearl Poet. So Pearl is about a father whose daughter passes away when she's only 2. So it starts out very tragic, and he has a dream vision of visiting her in heaven. And she is kind of ruthless. She puts him in his place and is like, you know, here's what it means to have joy, and you put all of your eggs in one basket, in just me, and that's not quite how joy works. And it's really interesting. And then Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is just, it's an Arthurian romp. It's so much fun. Welcome to the bottom of the bookcase. Let's move this out of the way. You can see all my random stuff down here, but that's fine. This is a tour, a bookshelf tour after all. Okay, so I have some classics down here. This is my children's shelf, so I have kids classics, picture books, just stuff like that. So not all of this is a classic. However, I do have some children's classics. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. This I had before. I got that really cool copy from before. And then The Wind in the Willows, which is one of the most delightful things ever to be delightful. Wrinkle in Time and The Wind in the Door. I have those. I have some Oscar Wilde fairy tales. Again, if Ruskin counts, then Oscar Wilde fairy tales count. That is The Happy Prince, etc. This is a little bit hard to find, so I was really excited to get that. I really like Oscar Wilde. He also has like dark side, light side in his writing. The Importance of Being Earnest and Picture of Dorian Gray are just like, you can tell it's the same person, but it's like the dark side, light side. I love it. Love it. Love both sides. Big fan. It's another version of Beowulf, the Seamus Heaney one that made all those waves back in like 2002 or whenever it came out. The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. If you've been around the channel, you know how much I love this book. I should talk about it more often though, because it is just a delight and a half. It feels like you're on this weird trip, but then at the end you end up enjoying and appreciating your life more. Amazing. Captain Boldheart and the Magic Fishbone. I don't know what this is. I saw it was by Charles Dickens and it was this weird children's book. And I got it quite a while ago. I should read it soon. That would be good. I don't know. Witch of Blackbird Pond. Like, do you count Witch of Blackbird Pond, Harold and the Purple Crayon, like famous books? Probably not. This is my favorite, Peter Pan, by James Barrie, illustrated by Scott Gustafson. The illustrations by Scott Gustafson are just mouth-wateringly amazing. So if you are a fan of Peter Pan at all, or just good illustrated books, then I would 100% recommend this one. It's unbeatable in just how beautiful and sumptuous the illustrations are. So yeah, I did some research before I got this, and this was my favorite. I did the same thing with Wind in the Willows because I love Wind in the Willows, and my favorite illustrations are by Inga Moore. So again, it's just these absolutely charming, detailed, lovely pictures throughout. This is slightly abridged. They took out a couple chapters to make it reasonably sized, but worth it. Okay, we finally made it to bookshelf number 2. All right, time for some Dostoevsky. What do you say? Let's do it. I have a big old biography there, but that's not a classic. Brothers K. Dostoevsky. Super pretty, golden edges. Yeah, it's a lovely copy. I don't know why it's not thicker, to be honest. It's pretty thick, but Brothers K is humongous, so I'm not quite sure what that is about. Crime and Punishment is my favorite Dostoevsky work, and this is one of my favorite copies of it. You've maybe seen it if you've been around the channel. This one I inherited from that friend. We were both really big fans of Crime and Punishment, and this was the one thing that I asked about. Like, basically she gave it to me before she passed. She said I could have it. This is the copy that I used in college. I took a year-long intensive Dostoevsky class. I hate the cover. It's really just unacceptably hideous. And I've taught it a couple times, so that's what all the tabs are for. But there you go. So that's partially why I have so many Dostoevsky books as well. It's from that class. Now this cover I love. You can tell exactly which of the Karamazov brothers is which, just based on their expressions and stances and stuff. It's a lovely, perfect choice for Brothers K. See, look how chunky that is. That is not a small book. It's an astonishingly good book, but it's a tough one as well. The Double and the Gambler. Actually, just later today, I'm teaching a webinar on writing in deep point of view. So if you're a writer, you know probably what that is. If you're not, then probably not, and that's okay. But I used the Gambler as an example of that really immersive writing style. I've heard that even some people are required to read The Gambler to understand the psychology of people who have a gambling addiction, because it's described so well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I like The Gambler more than I like The Double, but I haven't reread either since college, so maybe my opinions would change. Who's to say? The Idiot and Devils. I hate this cover. But it makes a lot of sense if you read The Idiot. It's about a guy who's a very pure-hearted person. He has epilepsy, and it's anyway, I guess you just have to read it. It's not my favorite Dostoevsky though, so I would say maybe not. However, I did keep it. And then Devils, or sometimes it's the Possessed, is how that's translated. I preferred this. It was very messed up, as a lot of Dostoevsky stuff is, but I thought that parts of it were really fascinating, you know, Stavrogin and those characters. I also have some of his short stories, White Nights, etc. So you can see there. Poor Folk, that was his first novel. It's a short one, as you can see. It's epistolary, I believe. It's one of the only ones that I have not. It's one of his only major works, period, that I haven't read. I have not read Poor Folk. I haven't read The Adolescent. It's one of the only ones I don't own, too. Notes from Underground. I love Notes from Underground, at least part one. It's split into two very different parts, and part one I think is fascinating. Part two gets under my skin a little bit, but if you are looking for like a short Dostoevsky work to try, then I would go Notes from Underground. Memoirs from the House of the Dead is the obligatory I'm a Russian author, therefore I have been unjustly imprisoned, and here let me narrate my experiences book. I mean, they all have them. So Memoirs from the House of the Dead. It was interesting, and it gave a good insight into some of his psychology that he uses through his other works, because it's not always obvious. And I have another book of short stories, The Eternal Husband. It's etc. Alright, I'm just gonna show you all the Shakespeare because I have so many little Dover Thrift copies that I've gotten from high school, from college, from middle school even, and I just kept them all. So I'll just give you a closer look. We also get some Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, Othello, sonnets. Edward III is contested. The authorship of that one, this I got when I was in Stratford. I saw that edition. And we have all of those. This is just a retelling, but it's a very good one. Tempest, Macbeth, those are the Norton Critical editions with essays and stuff at the end. Okay. I hope you're enjoying this because it's taking a very long time. You know, just a little ASMR for you, I guess. Alright, so we have T.S. Eliot, The Complete Poems and Plays. This was a college buy. It looks like it's older, but this was a class where you actually did not need to get the latest edition. Imagine that. So yeah, lots of plays and poetry there that I enjoyed. The Rise We're Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I read it in high school, but I did not keep that book for some reason, so I got it again. Maybe they didn't give it to us by the time we got to senior year or something like that. But yeah, let's talk about making me cry. Classic Stories by Edgar Allan Poe. It's kind of one of those like plasticky, gummy covers from Barnes & Noble. It's a cool edition. The red bookmark. David Copperfield. David Copperfield takes a very close second to Tale of Two Cities for me. This is the version that I got for college. It's another cover that I don't like at all. I'm very particular about my covers. And anyway, so David Copperfield is a semi-autobiographical story about David Copperfield's life, and you feel like you really get to know them because it's an 800-page book or so. But it's really charming. There's a lot to love about it. There are some things not to like as much, but by and large, it's lovely. It was Dickens' favorite of all of his works. Little Dorrit, I also have by Charles Dickens, and I got it because of this mini-series. Little Dorrit, the title is dreadful. It sounds boring. I did not get too far into the book myself when I tried to read the whole thing. Look how thick that is. However, the mini-series was breathtaking. Claire Foy is a revelation. She takes... so Dickens is very good with characters, but he has a weakness for these very perfect, very quiet, very sweet, very submissive girls with no flaws, like Lucy Manette. Little Dorrit is in that same mode, but Claire Foy gives her life and this personality that Dickens didn't. And I've mad respect. It's a great miniseries. Definitely recommend. I have Sherlock Holmes, The Complete Works. This is volume 1. Volume 2 is down there. Moby Dick. This is my copy from high school. This is basically like a trophy. I did not enjoy a lot of Moby Dick. There were parts that I liked, but a lot that I didn't, but I kept it. Edith Hamilton's Mythology. This was my freshman year in high school, and it's still something that is read today. It is a classic, certainly in my book. Separate Peace by John Knowles is borderline classic, I would say, but there it is. Count of Monte Cristo. Ta-da! I didn't like as much as I was hoping to be honest. Okay, there's part 2 of all of the Sherlock Holmes. So I went through and read all of Sherlock Holmes. Heart of Darkness and Secret Sharer. This was another trophy. The Heart of Darkness I've read several times now for different classes, and I didn't like it any of the times. None of the times. There are some cool things Joseph Conrad does as a stylist. I mean, and English is a second language, so I do have some respect for that, but Still, Stevenson's The Black Arrow. This is just a really fun romp if you're looking for an adventure. At least that's the way I remember it. Chaim Potok, The Chosen. This I read in high school as well, I want to say. Did I? Or was it my first year teaching? I don't know, it's all kind of blending together now, but it's a really interesting look into just a society that not everybody gets a close look into. And then Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. Stay, books, stay. I got a nice cheap version because I enjoyed that when I was in junior high. Okay, this is the Tale of Two Cities that I bought specifically to annotate it for my upcoming retelling of the Tale of Two Cities. So lots of ideas, lots of use this, consider that. And hopefully I will remember to use this and consider that. But it was a fun reread. This is an intentionally cheap kind of copy because I wanted just to use it as research, and that was it. I obviously have plenty of copies of A Tale of Two Cities. I even have a video about all the copies I have of A Tale of Two Cities, but you know, I had to have my specifically retelling one. Alright, I have Dante's Divine Comedy, all three of them, the Hollander editions, so that's Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso. I've read Inferno and Purgatorio. I have not read all of Paradiso. I've only read like 2 cantos of it to confirm what I knew about like the very end, how each book ends with the word stars, both in good English translations and in the Italian. So I read the final canto. It's not like it's a surprise where it's going in Paradiso. Brave New World, dun, dun, by Aldous Huxley, is going to mess you up. So I've read that a couple times. This is my college copy. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich by Alexander Solzhenitsyn is a book that I teach every year to 10th graders, and it's a very readable Russian classic. Some of them are tough to get into, but this one is, the prose is very straightforward and it's not as philosophical as some of the others, but it still is very, very good. We have Cyrano de Bergerac, which I can't remember if I've read or not. Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I did read, I think. Pushkin, Queen of Spades. Dostoevsky was a big fan of Pushkin. Return of the Screw by Henry James, definitely read once or twice. Diary of a Madman by Gogol. Gogol is surprisingly funny. He's very, very weird, but funny, which is why I got another book of his, The Overcoat and Other Stories. I've not read Diary of a Madman, but that should really make my TBR. That'd be a fun one. And by fun, I mean absolutely bonkers, I bet. George Orwell's 1984. Classic, classic, classic. Taught it many times, read it many times. Lord of the Flies, beautiful, terrible. This is my high school copy. Fahrenheit 451, one of my favorite classics of all time. If you have not read it, read this one. Big, big fan. Ray Bradbury is, you know, classic author. Dandelion Wine doesn't make as much of a splash, but there you go. Fantasy classic, do you think? Right, Great Gatsby. Need I say more? Tale of Two Cities. This is the copy that I read in high school. This is the copy that I initially taught. This is even the copy that they still order for schools now, so I've taught this 14 years in a row. Yep. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes is a newer classic. It will break your heart. It's really thought-provoking, and if you like stuff that will make you cry, you're welcome. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I actually mentioned this. I have the Tolkien translation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight as well, but as much as I love you, Tolkien, his translation is too archaic, it's too hard to read, it's too close to the Middle English. I can read a little bit of Middle English, but not the northern variety that Sir Gawain uses. So please make this modern for me. while sticking to the meaning, and Raffle does a nice readable version of it. His introduction, I remember being a little bit insufferable, but his translation, lovely. Big fan. I have Huck Finn. This was a high school copy that I got for high school. It was summer reading. It was one of the first and only things that I didn't finish reading of all the assigned reading that I had in high school and college. So I feel like that's not so bad. I got about halfway through. Ayn Rand, I have Anthem. The school was not going to teach it anymore, so they were giving copies away, and I'm like, well, this one looks short and it's dystopian and seemed interesting, so I haven't read it yet, but it's on my TBR. Les Mis, baby. This is the longest book I think I have read. It's 1450 pages long. It's humongous. This is unabridged. This is my trophy book. I don't need War and Peace, I have Les Mis. Great Expectations, this was my freshman year, I want to say, or 8th grade. But this is the copy. I really liked the Miss Havisham stuff. I did not like the stuff after. I have Faust by Goethe. So I teach Marlowe's Faust, or I taught it for 10 years. But I have never read Goethe's Faust, so when I found this at a used bookstore, I'm like, well, I know the ending is different, so it's like choose your own adventure. Do you want Faust to be saved at the last minute and go to heaven, or do you want him to be dragged to hell for his choices? So this is the happy ending Faust, and I was kind of curious about how that looked. And then I have Tennyson's Idylls of the King. I really enjoy a lot of Tennyson. I have not read all of this. So amazingly enough, I'm maybe a little over halfway through all of my classics, but I'm running out of storage space, incredibly. So if you enjoyed this video, if you just liked a little background classic overview, and you want a part 2, then please do let me know below in the comments, and I will finish up with the rest of my classics collection. But for now, I'm going to sign off. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more English nerdy goodness, literature, writing, and all of that good stuff, and I will see you next time.